aside from the ego pain, the rest is really quite interesting. I'm curious. I'm learning different things. I think the pain you're talking about is the first one, where it's almost like we create, I want to say chaos, but an aspect of that.
Welcome to Spiritually Hungry. Summer snacks.
You're stealing my line, buddy.
No, but you don't want to say summer snacks.
No, but welcome to Spiritually Hungry.
Snacks.
Summertime edition.
Snacks. So I have a question for our listeners. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Who causes or what causes most of your pain? You can't say me.
No, I would not say you. I do.
Ah, very good. And I wonder if we asked our listeners, right?
But you thought I didn't know the answer?
What?
And I'm very aware of exactly how I do it and when I do it.
So you would say 100% of all the pain you ever feel?
No.
What percent?
I view it like the moments where I recognize that I need to shift or change something because I'm not feeling as I should, let's say generally, then I will cause this kind of pain. And it's a pain, though, that has a purpose, and it's to help me grow and change. I don't want to get stuck in the pain, but I'm aware of that, like that loop I go in. Then there's other pain that comes externally from situations or people or whatever. And the way I view that is also for change and growth. But that's a different kind of thing. It's a different pain. It's an ego pain. This is like more of an internal pain. It's much more uncomfortable when it's myself bringing it to my attention. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it's external, I'm very acutely aware of, there's an opportunity here and I really look for it and I think about it. And aside from the ego pain, the rest is really quite interesting. I'm curious. I'm learning different things. I think the pain you're talking about is the first one, where it's almost like we create, I want to say chaos, but an aspect of that.
Yeah. So I'd like to share a story.
Who's it about?
It's about our oldest son, David.
Is he going to like this story?
He might or might not. We'll find out soon after this episode is released. The summer snack is released. So he's in the process. He's building a startup, and he likes to, as he often does in all areas of his life.
By the way, all this snack talking has made me hungry. I'm
really?
Just saying. Yeah. Okay.
Here. Enjoy this summer spiritually hungry.
So yes, he's starting a startup.
Yes, he's starting a startup. So he likes to involve us in the process. And the other week, he was sharing that there's something he wanted to do, and it didn't go as he wanted it. Now, listening to the first part of it, as this one part of his, he was something he wanted to accomplish. To my mind, the first thought that I had is that's really not important for what you're trying to do, the company you're trying to build. But then he had disappointment that part, that thing, that one action didn't manifest as he wanted it to manifest. And it made me think that he's now disappointed. Oh, he wasn't in pain about it, right? But he was disappointed. Why was he disappointed? He was disappointed because he said to himself, consciously or unconsciously, this is important to me. It's important to me. It didn't happen. Now I'm disappointed. And
it should have been this way. And I'm not going to get
whatever. Exactly. And it made me realize that this is what most of us are doing, consciously or unconsciously. We have a list of things that we allow to upset us. So the question that I'd like to ask our listeners to ask themselves, how long is that list? How many things?
Of things they desire
what are the things that you allow to upset you?
On a daily basis.
For example, right? Mm-hmm. The stupidest example, you're standing at the line at the supermarket and somebody cuts in front of you. So you've now added, assuming you get upset, you've now added to your list, random person cutting in front of me in the supermarket. That's on my list, right? And we go through life and we have lists probably of thousands of situations and things which are objectively ridiculous, upset us. And sometimes it's bigger than that. I really want to go on this trip, and it falls through. So on your list, you've made on your list of things that will disappoint you. If I want to go on this trip in this way, if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be upset. And if you think about it in this way, you realize that we go through life making the list of things that we allow to upset us longer and longer and longer. And guess what? If the list is long, you're going to be upset a lot of the time. Now imagine another reality. Imagine, and again, this is where the work comes in, where the list is very short. Like, I like to say my list is, around the really important things in life. Health, family.
It's like 3 things.
Yeah. Health, family, spiritual growth. Those are the 3 things I have on my list. And I'll be honest, of course, at times I'm stupid enough to add a few other things to that list, but I know that it's stupid. I think the fundamental.
But you're talking about disappointment or pain?
Both, right? Because sometimes it's disappointment, sometimes it's pain. I want to go on a date with that person.
Depends how invested you are in that thing.
Right, exactly. How much bold do you put that thing on your list? Right. I think most of us probably, hopefully, won't feel pain when we're cut off in the supermarket. But I think many people will feel very disappointed when they wanted to go on a date with that person said no. Right? Objectively, it's ridiculous. If you've never met that person, never even thought of that person, you're not feeling any pain now. But you created this whole story. You added this person to your list. If this person says no to going on a date with me, I'm going to feel pain.
But you do understand where that comes from, right? There's a step before this. People feel pain about those things because they wonder, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I not enough? And the thing fundamentally why your list could be relatively short is because you have self-love and care, and you also have a great connection to the creator. So it's one and the same. So there isn't an opening for those things. For the rest of the world, for the most part, that person rejected me. That means I'm unlovable, right? That person cut me off in the supermarket. Nobody sees me or hears me. I have no voice, right? It's feeding into a narrative of something that already exists.
Absolutely. Which brings me to my point, which is that first we have to see it as our very important life goal to shorten the list. That's where I want to start, right? And I think,
and I agree with you. Like something happened on the plane yesterday, where the flight attendant said something to me, and she's like, kind of, bossy and questioning where I was walking on the plane or whatever. And I didn't get upset. I actually just looked at her and I was like, oh, okay, I'm unclear that why are you telling me? Like, and I smiled. I was like, I'm not sure, like, why. And then she had misunderstood, like, she felt embarrassed. She had made a mistake. She came and she grabbed my arm. We started laughing. Now, that could have gone very differently, right? I could have gotten really nasty. And why are you, So I think that it's to look at life, those little things. A person cut you off in the supermarket, and you could even say, oh, like, please go ahead. You must be in a rush, or just smile and not let it bother you. Or there's always a way to approach those different things for sure. And it's usually with laughter and levity. But I think a person needs to be in a state in the relationship with themselves and with the creator. It has to be healthy and real.
Completely agree. But I want to reiterate that I think some of our biggest mistakes in life is that we're not conscious of what we're doing, right? So the first frame I'd like our listeners to think about is, how long is that list? Think about this past week. Think about this past day. How many things are on that list? And start feeling a little silly that you're allowing that list to grow. The second part to that, of course, is, as you said, this is where the spiritual work comes in. I do not believe it is possible. Do not believe it's possible for any one of us to fundamentally cut that list down to a very short list, which means that we will allow very few things to upset us and cause us pain unless we're really doing the difficult spiritual work. And like you said, brings us to what we call, and we've spoken about in previous episodes, about certainty in the light of the creator, that what is happening to me is actually for my benefit, of course. And we can go on for hours talking about what that spiritual work is. But what I'm saying is that I see 2 important steps here. First, objectively, you don't have to be too spiritual to realize it's kind of ridiculous that we're creating these longer and longer lists of things that will cause us pain and will cause us upset.
Because at the end of life, that will be your whole life. Like, it reminds me, I don't know, sometimes things randomly appear on social media and you get stuck watching them. There's this video of a gorilla, like huge, and this little baby comes from behind, keeps poking them on the behind, poking and then like running off. And it's a baby gorilla. They want to have fun, right? They're being silly, but the mother like smacks, it gets so angry and reactive in a heartbeat. And then I'm watching the whole thing, right? From my lens, I'm like, this is so adorable. Turn around, look at the kid, like play, right? But that's how we approach everything in our life. And if you can have that visual of like, we're being this crazy gorilla that's reacting to every single thing that pokes us, right? When really you could just pause and say, okay, either it's cute or be curious about it or ignore it. but that's the way most live life.
Absolutely. And that's the first part. The second part, which is maybe more important, is that the only way to fundamentally cut that list into very few things is the spiritual work. And it's not easy and it takes effort, but I can promise our listeners that the benefit of deep, consistent spiritual work is that there will be so many fewer things that will upset you, so many fewer things that will cause you pain.
And the key in doing that really is in those moments. And I find this to be a really powerful tool. When something upsets me or worries me, after I feel what I'm feeling, I pause and say, okay, what is the opportunity here? And what do I want to get out of this? Why am I feeling the way I do? And what are my options? Because when you ask yourself that question, what are my options in this moment where that thing happened that bothered me, that other thing that happened worries me, or I don't feel like I'm in control, what are your options? And usually it's to choose something else or just to trust, really to pause and say, okay, I don't know why this exactly happened, but I know that because it's in front of me, because it's actually brought to me, it's something that I need to experience on some level. Because spiritually speaking, every person we meet, every interaction we have, every exchange we have with anybody in this physical plane, it's just there to show us something and to teach us something. So if we approach life like that, it doesn't mean everything's serious and it doesn't mean everything, is as you see it.
Most things aren't.
Right. But the fact that it's in front of you, that simple understanding is that it's an opportunity. So be curious about that. And I find when I approach life with curiosity, what could this be? What is another option? What is, and I change my lens, I change my perspective. That's when I really can see clearly and not react for the most part.
Nice. So again, for our listeners, we'd like to inspire you to really think about how long your list of things that you're allowed to upset you and disappoint you. Realize that you're in control. You're the cause of upset and pain and disappointment. And most importantly, to understand that the purpose of the spiritual work, the deep spiritual work that we speak about so often on the podcast, is so that you can make this list very short.
And really, it's the opposite, right? Like we think that if I can just get rid of that person that's upsetting me, or if I could commute a different way so I don't have the traffic, then everything would be fine. Instead of wishing these things that are in front of you to go away, stop and say, okay, this is in front of me. What am I meant to see that I cannot see in my life today? How am I meant to view my world differently, right? And once you learn the lesson, I find that those issues, those nagging things actually end up disappearing. They just come and poof, show up in front of you really to be a teaching.
Yeah. And one of my favorite quotes, and they were as they never were. Right? Then that's the purpose of the spiritual work, to not, and I think it's a very important point. We go through life, through every problem and person who upsets us, saying, how can I get rid of that?
Yes.
Rather than saying, how can I change so that it doesn't matter to me anymore? Mm-hmm. So we hope you enjoyed this spiritually hungry
episode
snack. And hopefully, maybe more importantly, that you actually do the work that we shared today.
And stay spiritually hungry.